When you think about what women want in a long-term partner, what comes to mind? Movies, magazines, and social media paint a pretty predictable picture. The tall, rich, charming guy who always knows the right thing to say. But here's the thing. Psychology tells a very different story. In fact, decades of research show that what women actually look for in a lifelong partner goes far deeper than flashy status or picture-perfect looks. So today, let's cut through the noise and uncover the truth. What do women really want in a long-term partner? And more importantly, why does psychology keep pointing us to qualities that most people tend to overlook? When we look at the messages we're constantly fed about relationships, the pattern is clear. Movies tell us that women fall head over heels for the mysterious bad boy with the leather jacket and smirk. Social media glamorizes the lifestyle of the wealthy jet setter, making it seem like money and status alone can win someone's heart. And of course, stereotypes push the idea that women are primarily drawn to physical looks or a man's ability to sweep her off her feet with charm. At first glance, these ideas make sense. Attraction does have a surface-level component. We all notice physical appearance. Financial stability can signal security. And charisma, well, it's undeniably magnetic. But here's the catch. What sparks initial attraction is not always what sustains long-term commitment. Let's take a closer look. Think about the bad boy archetype Hollywood sells us. Exciting? Yes. Sustainable? Not really. Studies on relationship satisfaction show that traits like unreliability, unpredictability, or lack of emotional depth often lead to instability and eventual breakdown of the relationship. What may be thrilling at the start often becomes exhausting down the road. Now consider wealth. Social media is full of flashy lifestyles, and it's easy to assume financial abundance is the ultimate key to long-term attraction. But research tells a different story. While women do tend to value stability, wealth on its own isn't enough. Why? Because money doesn't guarantee kindness, trust, or the ability to handle challenges together. In fact, relationships built primarily on financial appeal often struggle when deeper emotional needs aren't met. And then there's charm. We've all met someone who can light up a room with their presence. But charm without authenticity is like a beautiful mask. It eventually slips. Over time, partners begin to notice inconsistencies between words and actions. That gap erodes trust, and trust, as psychology consistently shows, is one of the strongest predictors of long-term satisfaction. So why are these cultural narratives so misleading? Because they focus on short-term attraction, the spark, instead of the qualities that make someone a reliable, fulfilling partner over the course of years or even decades. What looks impressive on Instagram or works for a 90-minute rom-com often doesn't translate into everyday life, where commitment, patience, and emotional presence matter far more. Psychology, on the other hand, offers us a much clearer picture. Decades of studies on attachment, relationship satisfaction, and partner preferences show that women consistently value three key things in the long run: security, authenticity, and intellect. These aren't always the qualities that dominate in pop culture, but they are the ones that truly stand the test of time. And that brings us to the real heart of this video. If we set aside the stereotypes, what do women genuinely want in a long-term partner? The answer isn't glamorous or clickbait worthy, but it is deeply human. Let's start with the foundation, security. If there's one quality that psychology keeps pointing to as the foundation of long-term attraction, it's security. Not the Hollywood version of security, yachts, mansions, and luxury cars, but the kind of security that allows someone to breathe deeply, relax, and trust that their partner is truly there for them. So what exactly does that mean? Let's break it down. The first layer is emotional security. This is the ability to trust your partner's words and actions. It's knowing that when life gets messy, they won't suddenly disappear or withdraw. Emotional security looks like dependability, consistency, and reliability. It's not about grand romantic gestures, but about the everyday choices that signal, "I'm here, and you can count on me." Think of it this way. Passion might ignite the flame, but emotional security is the container that keeps that flame burning without burning everything down. Research on attachment theory shows us that secure attachments, those marked by trust and emotional availability, are consistently linked with higher satisfaction in relationships. People feel more connected, more supported, and more willing to grow when they trust that their partner won't abandon them emotionally. Now let's talk about financial stability, because this one is often misunderstood. Pop culture tells us women are chasing wealth, but here's the reality. Studies in evolutionary psychology and modern relationship science show that it's not wealth itself women are drawn to, but rather the sense of safety and reliability that comes with it. Think about it. Financial stability signals that a partner is capable of handling responsibilities, planning for the future, and providing a stable environment. That doesn't mean being a millionaire. It means having direction, managing resources wisely, and showing responsibility. A man who lives within his means, pays attention to his commitments, and works steadily toward goals often creates a stronger sense of trust than someone who flashes wealth but lacks consistency. And here's where psychology adds another layer. Reliability itself is deeply attractive. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that dependability and emotional stability ranked among the top traits women valued for long-term partners, outranking looks, charm, and even passion. Why? Because without reliability, everything else becomes unstable. Think of relationships like building a house. Emotional connection, shared values, and passion are the walls, windows, and design. But security, both emotional and practical, is the foundation. Without it, the house eventually cracks, no matter how beautiful it looks from the outside. So when we talk about security, we're not talking about being the richest guy in the room or pretending to be perfect. We're talking about showing up, being consistent, and creating a safe space where a partner feels emotionally anchored. That sense of safety is not only comforting, it's magnetic, because it makes a relationship sustainable over time. And that brings us to the next quality women consistently value in the long run: authenticity. Because once the foundation of security is set, the real question becomes, who are you really? Once the foundation of security is in place, another trait rises to the top: authenticity. And here's the truth. Authenticity almost always beats the mask of perfection. We live in a world where it's easy to perform. Social media encourages people to curate the best versions of themselves. The perfect photos, the witty captions, the highlight reel of success. But while that might attract quick attention, it doesn't build deep trust. What women value in long-term partners isn't the flawless act, but the courage to be genuine, flaws, quirks, and all. Why? Because authenticity creates connection. When someone is real about who they are, it sends a powerful message. You can trust me. I'm not hiding behind a mask. And trust, as we've already seen, is the lifeblood of long-term commitment. On the flip side, let's talk about what happens when someone pretends. Pretenders can be charming at first. They say the right things, act the right way, and might even seem like the perfect catch. But over time, the cracks always show. Words don't match actions. Promises are broken. The highlight reel doesn't line up with real life. And when that inconsistency appears, trust evaporates. Psychology has a name for this: incongruence. It's when a person's inner self doesn't match the image they project outwardly. Carl Rogers, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, emphasized the importance of congruence in healthy relationships. Simply put, congruence means your words, actions, and feelings line up. When someone is congruent, people can relax around them because what you see is truly what you get. Now, here's the interesting part. Authenticity isn't about oversharing or unloading every insecurity onto a partner. It's about being honest enough to show vulnerability while also demonstrating self-awareness. For example, admitting when you're wrong, being upfront about your goals, or even acknowledging fears shows far more strength than pretending everything is always under control. Research supports this too. Studies on vulnerability, particularly the work of researcher Brené Brown, show that people who allow themselves to be seen, imperfections included, often build stronger bonds. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the doorway to intimacy. and intimacy is what sustains relationships beyond the surface level. Think about it this way. If security is the foundation of a relationship, authenticity is the framework that holds everything together. Without it, the relationship becomes hollow, impressive from the outside but fragile on the inside. With it, partners can face challenges together because they know they're dealing with someone real, not someone performing. So the takeaway here is simple but powerful: drop the act. Being perfect is far less attractive than being real. Authenticity builds the kind of trust and emotional connection that no amount of charm or showmanship can replace. And once authenticity is established, another dimension comes into play: intellect. Because beyond security and honesty, women value partners who can stimulate the mind as well as the heart. By now we've seen how security and authenticity form the backbone of lasting attraction. But there's another quality that consistently shows up in research, one that goes beyond appearances and even beyond emotional presence. That quality is intellect. And no, we're not just talking about IQ scores or academic achievements. Intellect in the context of long-term relationships is much broader. It's about curiosity, depth of conversation, and the ability to grow together mentally and emotionally. Think about the early stages of a relationship, the so-called honeymoon phase. Attraction is high, excitement is fresh, and everything feels new. But once the novelty fades, what keeps two people connected? More often than not, it's the ability to engage each other's minds. When couples can talk about ideas, challenge each other, and explore new perspectives together, the relationship doesn't just survive, it thrives. This is where curiosity plays such a big role. A partner who is curious about the world, who asks questions, who wants to learn, who is open to new experiences, brings an energy that keeps the relationship dynamic. Curiosity signals growth, and growth is deeply attractive because it suggests the relationship won't stagnate. Depth of conversation is another piece of this puzzle. It's not that small talk doesn't matter, and it does, but long-term satisfaction often depends on the ability to move beyond surface-level conversations into discussions about values, dreams, fears, and philosophies. Couples who can navigate these deeper topics build a stronger emotional and intellectual bond. Psychological research backs this up. A study published in Psychological Science found that couples who engaged in novel and stimulating conversations reported higher relationship satisfaction compared to those who stuck to routine, surface-level interactions. Another study in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships showed that intellectual compatibility, the feeling of being mentally engaged and challenged by your partner, was a significant predictor of long-term happiness. Why does this matter so much? Because relationships aren't static. Life brings changes, challenges, and unexpected turns. Intellectual engagement allows couples to adapt and evolve together. It creates a sense of partnership where both people feel like they're growing, not just as individuals, but as a team. And here's something important. Intellectual attraction isn't about showing off knowledge or being the smartest person in the room. It's about openness, the willingness to listen, to share ideas, and to explore different viewpoints. Sometimes it's not about having the answers, but about enjoying the process of discovering them together. So when we talk about intellect in long-term relationships, what we're really talking about is shared growth. A partner who can challenge you, inspire you, and walk alongside you as you both expand your horizons is someone who will likely hold your interest for years to come. And that leads us to something even deeper. Because beyond security, authenticity, and intellect, there's another factor that ties everything together: the emotional presence and willingness to grow as a couple. And that's where we'll go next. At this point, we've covered some of the most important qualities women value in a long-term partner: security, authenticity, and intellect. But there's something even bigger that ties all of these together, and it goes beyond any checklist of traits. It's emotional presence and the willingness to grow. Here's what I mean. Many people approach relationships like a shopping list. They think if they just check all the boxes, good job, decent looks, stable personality, then that should guarantee long-term success. But the truth is, relationships don't work like a checklist. They work like a journey. And what matters most on that journey isn't perfection, It's presence. Presence is about showing up fully, not just physically, but emotionally. It's listening without distraction, being available when things get tough, and sharing in the little moments that actually make up most of life. Research in the field of emotional intelligence has shown that couples who actively practice empathy and emotional availability report significantly higher satisfaction than those who simply rely on material or external factors. And this is where empathy comes in. Empathy is more than just saying, I understand. It's the ability to step into your partner's shoes, to feel what they feel, and to respond with care. A study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that empathy was one of the strongest predictors of long-term marital satisfaction. Why? Because empathy builds connection, and connection is what keeps people bonded even when life throws curveballs. Now let's talk about growth. One of the biggest misconceptions about relationships is that you need to have it all figured out before you can be a great partner. But psychology suggests otherwise. What really matters is a growth mindset. This is the belief that people can change, improve, and adapt over time. Think about it. Life will always evolve. Careers shift, families grow, challenges arise. A partner who clings to the idea of this is just who I am can easily become stuck, while a partner who's willing to learn and grow creates resilience in the relationship. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset highlights that couples who see challenges as opportunities to grow together are far more likely to thrive in the long run. And here's the key contrast. Someone who tries to present themselves as the finished product, as if they've got it all together, might look appealing at first. But over time, the inability to adapt or evolve creates cracks. Meanwhile, someone who admits they're a work in progress, but who shows the willingness to grow alongside their partner, builds a bond that gets stronger over time. So the real deal makers in long-term relationships aren't just security, authenticity, or intellect. They're the everyday choices to be present, to empathize, and to grow together. Because in the end, lasting love isn't about perfection, it's about progression. And this brings us to the final piece of our journey, tying it all together. What do women really want in a long-term partner? Let's recap and uncover the deeper truth. So after everything we've explored, let's bring it all together. The cultural narrative tells us that women want a provider with deep pockets, a charmer with smooth lines, or maybe a genius who dazzles with intellect. But psychology paints a far richer and far more human picture. What women truly seek in a long-term partner isn't just surface-level traits. It's the deeper foundations that sustain love when the excitement of the honeymoon phase fades. And time and again, the research shows three themes standing out: security, authenticity, and intellect. Security is about more than just financial stability. It's the trust that your partner will show up, be dependable, and provide a safe space emotionally and practically. Authenticity is the courage to be real, to show vulnerability, and to let your partner see the true version of yourself, not a polished mask that eventually cracks. And intellect isn't about degrees or bragging rights. It's about curiosity, depth of conversation, and the shared growth that keeps relationships alive for the long haul. But here's the most important part. All of these qualities are rooted in one thing: emotional connection. Because in the end, what sustains love isn't the grand gestures or the flashy status symbols. It's the ability to connect deeply, to be seen, and to make your partner feel secure and valued over time. Now, here's where I want to challenge you. Instead of asking, how do I check all the boxes women want? Ask yourself this: am I building these qualities within myself? Are you someone who can be relied on? Not just in the big moments, but in the everyday choices? Are you authentic, honest about your strengths and your flaws, willing to show vulnerability instead of hiding behind a facade? And are you intellectually engaged, not just coasting, but curious, learning, and open to growing with someone else? Because the truth is, women don't want perfection. They want progress. They want a partner who's not only willing to share the journey, but to evolve along the way. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway here. Love that lasts isn't about finding someone who has it all. It's about building a connection with someone who brings security, authenticity, and intellectual depth, and who's willing to grow with you, not just stand still. So as you think about your own life and relationships, I'll leave you with this reflection. What qualities are you cultivating right now? And how are you showing up in ways that make a long-term partnership not just possible, but deeply fulfilling? If this video made you reflect, drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think makes a partner truly long-term material? And if you found value here, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more psychology-backed insights, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because when we understand the psychology of relationships, we don't just date better, we live better.